Welcome. Getting busted on by my son.
Bollox talking tangents. You messed up the intro because he was talking.
It was my son. He's in
There was an
timeout.
incident.
He's going to have to sit in the booth for an hour.
I think that's fair.
I think it's fair. Hey, welcome to Bollox Talks and Tangents. We got a great show tonight.
Oh.
I'm a little nervous about it. It was Derek's idea.
Absolutely my idea.
Derek's idea, just so we're clear.
100%.
Wasn't my
idea.
We're doing secret societies. But can we talk about it?
Yeah, because otherwise it'd be a really quiet show.
But we didn't do some of the more volatile ones.
No.
So we went with I scratched the surface. You might have. I don't even know which ones you did.
I went a little deep dive on one or two of them.
Okay.
One or two of them.
Okay.
Secret societies and then local beach names and their origins.
Origins of the beaches.
Yeah. Because that's much more pleasant.
Yeah, that's the We have the ooh.
And the
Yeah. So we're covered.
Yeah, I think so.
You
need an ooh and an ah on every show.
Everybody needs an ooh and an ah. So, but we got so much stuff going on. Got to say thank you to our sponsors first.
We do.
City Gates Distillery and St. Augustine Distillery. Some of the best tours out there. They have tasting. If you need a gift for dad or anybody else in the family, grandma who drinks too much cough syrup, this is the place to go.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
This
quality stuff.
Quality stuff. The tour is great. The tasting is great. The staff, both places are super friendly. Mm-hmm. It's incredible. And not just if you give them a gift card, you can get the booze, and the booze is great. Don't get me wrong, the booze is great. I've waxed lyrical about the booze. But they have koozies, they have T-shirts, they have hats. It's amazing. Quality branding.
Wonderful place. They did an amazing job. All right, 900 degree pizza and pasta. Amazing pizza. Great environment there. They're actually hiring. If you're looking for a job, they're hiring at 900 degree pizza and pasta. Wonderful job right there off of Lewis Speedway near the high school.
The pizza's amazing. The sauce is amazing. It's incredible pizza. It's incredible pizza. I stopped in over the weekend. I had a couple of friends of mine, their kids. It was great.
Yep.
Easy peasy.
Yep. Abare, Kresge and Associates, just the best.
That's
all it is. They're the best accountants in town. They're the best accountants in Florida. They keep me out of trouble.
The reason we see Troy walking the streets, smiling like a free man, is probably because of Abare, Kresge and Associates.
These guys do an amazing job.
Yeah.
Because, there's things in that tax code you don't know. And you can get yourself in trouble very quickly.
Yes, you can.
Hire a professional. It's going to save you money. Everyone goes, I don't want to spend the money. It saves you money by having a professional.
Yes, it does.
So, all right.
The Beacon, listening room, and Gypsy Cab. Holy moly.
Yeah.
What a location.
I had lunch at Gypsy today. I had the enchiladas. I had a salad and the enchiladas. Oh, so good.
I had takeout the other night. I'd take out. I was coming back from Jacksonville, had a thing up there, called ahead. Takeout, incredible. Everybody delighted. But that's in right there. The Beacon, packed last night.
Oh, slammed. Slammed. There was not a seat. We had to turn people away, which is a little upsetting. But it was just a fun night. Everybody had a great time.
Yeah.
I was, mediocrely entertaining.
So above average. Then.
About slightly above average for me.
Very good.
So yeah. But I felt good about it.
Good.
Yeah. All right. This guy, Meehan's.
Reggie Maggs, Meehan's
Irish pub.
Come on.
3 bars in one. You got Johnny's Oyster upstairs. You got the pub downstairs inside, and then you got the backyard where there's always great live music out there. Live music inside and outside. And
the food is incredible.
It sounds strange talking about bar food.
It's incredible food.
But it's great food. We're talking good Irish cuisine, and that's hard to say.
It is hard to say. Yeah. It's hard for me to admit it exists.
They take and Americanize it a little bit.
They do, yeah, but it's wonderful.
But it makes it work.
The Guinness is the best this side of the Atlantic. No doubt about that. And finally, let's not forget St. Augustine Pirate Museum.
Yes.
These guys, you've heard me say it not once, surely 100 times now. The Pirate Museum is one of the hidden gems of St. Augustine. It doesn't matter how many times I go there. It doesn't matter how many people I send there. Everyone is blown away. But not only that, the guys who run the place are tremendous. They do so much for the community. And I really think all of our sponsors constantly give back to the community.
Yeah.
They make this town what it is.
And here's the thing about our sponsors that we have. They're constantly evolving and staying on top of the game.
Yeah.
Because if you don't do that, you're out of
gone.
business. You're out of business.
Yeah, you're
So, all right, what you got?
Word Orange.
Word Origins. Wait, we got whiskey of the day or whiskey of the week. I got the Kentucky Owl. It's one of my favorites. It's a great whiskey. You can find it at Browdy's. You know, and it's a smooth whiskey. It's under $100. So
Kentucky Owl.
Kentucky Owl. It's confiscated. Kentucky Owl is the distillery is Kentucky Owl. The name of it is confiscated. So have you tried this one yet?
We're always symbiotic because there's a thing about
try this one.
There's a thing about owls in our secret societies later.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It's like we always know.
Always kind of runs into it.
Oh, that's really good.
That's solid stuff right there. You got to give it back.
Solid
You got to give it back.
Solid stuff.
So, all right. So we're starting off with the whiskey of the week. So I'm going to start with my first word of origin.
All right, go.
Wet your whistle.
Wet your whistle.
We just wet our whistle.
Yeah, yes, we did.
All right. So I wanted to go. Okay, where coming?
Where does it come from?
You know, our show's about having a drink and having a good time and going down crazy tangents.
Yeah.
Wet your whistle goes all the way back to the 14th century.
Really?
Yeah.
That's fucking cool.
It was in a story called The Reeve's Tale.
The Reeve's Tale. I love it.
So,
Yeah.
and it talked about a woman wetting her whistle. And ever since then, it became a drinking term. Well, where are you going to go to wet your whistle?
And what was she referring to?
It was, well, it's basically your pie hole.
Oh, yeah?
So
Okay.
it was basically, you know, where you whistle from. And that's, you know, like, you
Is
know,
this
shut your pie hole type situation. It's a wet your whistle. And it wasn't anything different than that. But it came from this story. And that's the first time that term was ever used. And it's been used for now over 1,000 years.
Wow. Is that...
Or almost 1,000 years.
That's Canterbury Tales, isn't it?
Yeah.
The Reeve
Yeah.
story.
Yeah.
I remember
Yep.
we did the
Yeah.
Shire Reeve,
Yep.
the sheriff.
Yep.
All right. Wet your whistle. Still the same.
Still the same.
Okay, so I got one. Somebody said to me the other day, you got to roll with the punches.
Yeah.
You got to roll with the punches, right? You got to adapt to unexpected situations, unexpected hardships. Roll with the punches. Have you any idea where this comes from?
I assumed it was a boxing term.
You are a genius, sir.
Okay.
You are an absolute genius. Yeah, it's very straightforward. It comes from boxing. It goes back to 1903. Sports writer in the Boston Globe talking about how one guy's defense in boxing, he had his body at an angle, and then he was rolling with the punches, rolling his body back and forth. And it was the first time this guy had ever seen that kind of defense. And so there you go.
So it's just basically he just rolled with it.
Yeah.
So as a sports writer, probably a very narrative sports writer in
Yeah.
the day, and that's where it came from.
Yeah, because you had to make it visual.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you roll into
Well,
a
you
punch.
couldn't watch video. You
Yeah.
couldn't watch video at that point.
Yeah.
All right.
What's your next one?
All right. My next one is making a killing.
Oh, I like it. Making a killing.
Making a killing.
Something
And-
I've never done in my life.
Yeah, well, you know, it's and it's darker than I thought it was going to be, because I thought it was going to be a gambling term.
Yeah.
All right, and it has to do more with taking. It goes back to lambs, like shepherds,
Okay.
taking them to slaughter.
Oh, okay.
So, I thought it was a gambling term 100%,
Yeah.
and it's more of a farming term than it is a gambling term. So you don't make your money until you take your, you know, and it works for cows, it works for
Yeah.
pigs, it works for everything else. You don't get the cash in
Until you've made a
until
killing.
they made the killing.
Wow.
So I didn't associate that with this. And it goes back to like the 1700s.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
Makes perfect sense.
Yeah. But did you ever associate that with that?
I know I didn't.
Yeah.
You know what is funny? So many of these, until we started doing this, I never thought about.
Yeah.
Now when I hear them, I go,
They
I
make
want to know.
sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
They make sense. I mean, most of them make sense.
Most of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
So here's one. Break a leg.
Okay.
Obviously, good luck before a performance.
Yeah.
But why do we say that? Why do we say break a leg?
Well, I think someone told someone and this is just my version of it.
Okay.
Someone told someone before a show, good luck, and they went out and broke their leg.
Okay.
So they reversed it.
All right.
And so that you didn't create bad luck, because it's bad luck to say good luck before a show.
Yeah.
That's the term they use instead of saying good luck.
All right.
So it's they reversed it, but I don't know if that's true.
So
there's so many different
there's
things that could happen. Yeah.
3 or 4 different variations.
Okay.
So I've heard one back in ancient Greece, where drama, of course, what we consider drama, was invented. They didn't clap their hands; they stomped their feet to show appreciation.
Okay.
And if you stomped long enough, you might
break your leg. Okay.
The one that I think is the real one.
Okay.
Is back in the early part of the 20th century.
Well, it's real now because it's on Bollox.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
But I think the real one is in the early part of the 20th century, ensemble actors would queue up to perform at what they called the leg line.
Okay.
And the leg line was where the curtain came down onto the stage. Mm-hmm. You didn't get paid unless you crossed or broke the leg line. Okay? So if you weren't picked...
So it's a term of getting paid.
Getting paid, yeah.
Okay.
So if you weren't called to perform, you didn't step in front of the curtain. You didn't cross
you didn't get
the
to break
leg
the leg
line.
Got
Therefore,
it.
you didn't break the leg, and that was it. Like, I hope, break a leg meant, I hope you get to perform.
Yeah.
Because then
So the
you'll
understudies
get paid.
didn't get to break a leg.
Yeah.
So they didn't get paid.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. But
Okay. I've never heard. First off, I didn't know the curtain was called the leg.
yeah. The leg line, yeah. Now, I'd also heard, somebody told me in horse racing, it was a term coined in the early 1920s because horse racing and gamblers are superstitious.
Yeah.
And they believed that by saying, I hope my horse breaks a leg, it meant that you'd probably win. Because you can't say, if you're gambling, I'm going to win.
Yeah.
Because then you were fucked.
So it's like the opposite of like what I
reverse
said.
psychology,
Okay.
whatever, yeah. Okay.
All right. So no, but I'd always heard that it was, if it's bad luck to say good luck.
Yeah.
Before a performance. So they said the reverse. So I don't know. So, but I like the leg line. That one makes the most sense to me too.
It does, doesn't it?
It makes the most sense to me too.
Well, and it's connected to theatre stuff. So.
All right, I'm nervous.
You're nervous. Secret societies. We're going to do secret societies. By the way, my name is, well, it doesn't matter at this stage.
Mike Davis.
Mike Davis.
Yeah.
We're both Mike Davis.
Yeah. I might have to unbuckle my belt here. I got a little tension going on here.
Yeah.
Whew.
All right, where do you want to start? Which one do you want to start with?
All right. So what I have like pretty much 5 basic ones.
Yeah. I think I've got some of the some similar ones.
Do you have any that's super controversial? I stayed away from the Ku Klux Klan.
Yeah, I avoided that one too.
I stayed away from it. I mean, if you really want to learn about that, read The Klan Unmasked by Stetson Kennedy.
Yep.
And you can go there because Stetson infiltrated that. It's one of the more controversial.
Yeah, secret
So, but
societies.
I stayed away from it on purpose because there's so much attached to it. But read The Klan Unmasked is what I'm telling you. Stetson, also a local here, wrote that, infiltrated the KKK along with others. He didn't do it just by himself.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of people that criticize him, but there was others that infiltrated, and he pieced it together for dramatic effect that it was just him.
Yeah.
So a lot of people like attack him and say, "Oh, no." He outright said, "I wasn't the only one who did this." So, all right. So, did you do the Knights Templar?
I didn't. I know a little bit about them, but let's hear what you got about the Knights Templar.
All right. So the Knights Templar, I'd heard of the Knights Templar, but I didn't know a lot about them.
Yeah.
All right. I knew they existed around the time of the Crusades.
Yeah.
So the Knights Templar, they were warriors that protected Christian pilgrims.
Yeah.
So the Christians were constantly under attack in a lot of different times throughout history.
Yeah.
Still are.
Still are.
Religion is one of the main reasons of war.
Yeah.
But it was started by a French knight, and his name was Hugues de Payens. Yeah, I can't say it.
Something of something.
Some French dude. So it was a French knight, and he kind of put it all together from the Temple of Solomon. Mm-hmm. So that's where the Knights Templar basically came from.
Yep.
So it was the poor fellow soldiers of Christ and the Temple of Solomon.
Yeah.
And it became the Knights Templar.
Yeah.
Okay,
And
and
you can hear about them like the Da Vinci Code and stuff on the Knights Templar and that kind of thing. Yeah.
so I mean, it really swelled up during when Pope Innocent II
Yeah. That guy.
Okay.
Pope Innocent II.
basically kind of was just attacking a lot of the Protestants.
Yeah.
And in 1139, they had to create a way to protect and allow Christian pilgrims to travel.
Yeah. Traveling to the Holy Land.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
Yes. So, and that's where it came from. 100% a Christian-based organization.
Yeah.
And, it could be the blacksmith, or it could be, and all of them were warriors.
Yeah. Well, what I read about them is that they got wealthy, and then they were in position to lend money to powerful people and lend money to kings, and then they kind of pissed off the King of France, and he went after them and killed most of them. A couple of centuries after what you were talking about.
Yeah, no, that was in the 13th, and that's the other part.
Yeah.
Is the Templar were
Supposedly,
basically they came together to protect certain artifacts.
Yeah.
Like the Shroud, the Holy Grail.
Right, supposedly they were the Holy Grail and the Shroud of Turin, yeah.
Yeah, so they came together, and what you're talking about, like you said, happened 2 centuries after, and that was Pope Clement V.
Whoa, I never liked him.
Yeah, damn it,
Popes.
Clement.
And supposedly that happened on Friday the 13th. The massacre of the Templar Knights was Friday the 13th, which is why, of course, Friday the 13th is supposedly such a dark day.
Of course it is. Of course it is.
Knights Templar.
Yeah. No, so I mean, they really, and they still may or may not be in existence today. Every single one of these may or may not be in existence.
All right,
some of them we know are in existence, but we don't know who they are.
Can I go to one that I hear about all the damn time because people say, you know who did this? The Illuminati.
Oh,
the Illuminati.
Let me get to those guys.
Right, so everybody has a conspiracy theory about the Illuminati, right?
Well, I mean, obviously they're in the JFK thing.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
And they were behind the French Revolution.
Yes.
And they're connected to the US Treasury and New World Order and all that kind of stuff. Their story is really quite boring. The reality of them, they were founded in 1776.
Yeah.
Interesting date, by the way.
Yeah.
But they were founded in Germany, in Bavaria, by a fellow called Adam Weishaupt. Weishaupt.
Yeah, is it Haupt or Haupt?
Yeah, Weishaupt.
Okay.
And the whole idea was to push against the conservative church and the monarchy, but it was influenced by the Enlightenment thinkers in France, and the idea and the reason they called themselves the Illuminati was they were trying to illuminate people through logic and reason. The same kind of Enlightenment thinking that inspired our revolution, led to our constitution. And so they recruited lots of many wealthy and they're recruited from another secret society.
Yeah.
The Freemasons.
Yeah. No, that's I mean, those two were so intertwined.
Yeah.
And I mean, even people talk about it today, the Illuminati still exists. But the Illuminati would recruit from
the Freemasons.
The Freemasons.
Yeah.
So do we go there?
Well,
or are we staying with the Illuminati?
I want to just one or two things. So they had the Owl of Minerva was their symbol, and we've got Kentucky Owl
whiskey.
whiskey.
About the Kentucky Owl. That's right.
Minerva was the goddess of wisdom. They were, of course, women were not allowed, and of course, Jews were not allowed. And we see this kind of thing in all the secret societies. Actually, very anti-Jewish and very anti-women.
Well, a lot of them are religious based.
Yeah, it caused a lot of issues.
Yeah.
But
and they hide their evil behind Christianity.
They do, Now, I will, when we get on to some of the other ones, I will try to connect us back to some of the dollar bill and the New World Order and the Eye of Reason and all that. It's all connected. So should we go to the Freemasons?
I think we got to go to the Freemasons because they are, of all the research I did, so many of these things reverted back to, or they ended up there.
Yeah.
They might have started here, but they ended up there.
And they're the nicest people on the planet Earth.
Yeah.
They're very kind and lovely. I love Freemasons.
Yeah. No, and they're clearly still in existence today. And you asked me before the show, do you know any? I was like, I don't know for sure.
Yeah.
But I'm fairly confident I do.
Yeah. Well, there's a Masonic...
But we don't know.
There's a Masonic lodge
Yeah.
on King Street.
Mm-hmm.
It's an address their address is either on MLK or on King Street, and it was founded in 1888. Hey, what else was founded in St. Augustine in 1888?
The Ponce Hotel.
The Ponce
Henry
Hotel.
Flagler opened the Ponce Hotel.
Oh, and that's really close to where the...
Well, that's where the money came from.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's where the money came from.
Yeah. Somebody a few years ago said to me the Templar Lodge or the Freemason Lodge here in St. Augustine is called the Ashlar Lodge.
It is Ashlar, yeah.
And somebody was like, Ashlar's another word for the devil. And so I went out of my way today to look it up, and Ashlar just refers to a type of masonry.
Yeah, I was going to say Ashlar's not the devil.
It just refers to finely hewn stone. Yeah. So there you go on that one.
But I also kind of wonder if someone higher up at Flagler might be part of the Freemasons if they're allowing them to stay on their property.
Well, the Mason Lodge is leasing that space to Flagler.
Yep.
All right, but for years that Mason Lodge, it used to. When I went to Flagler, that was a grocery store.
Yeah,
it was an IGA. So it was the grocery store we used when we were at Flagler. When that moved out, we don't have a grocery store downtown anymore. So that was a grocery store when I was there, and then it later became the post office annex building.
Yeah.
And now it is Flagler's, like they're bookstores there, right, Blake?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, and their merch and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yep, so it's a bookstore and a fitness center.
Yeah.
So the Freemasons were originally founded by actual guilds of stonemasons. And this whole thing started up in about the 13th century, and it was a way to guarantee that if you were in the Freemasons and if you were in the guild of stonemasons, that you could hire people who would be good at building cathedrals, churches, castles, buildings. You could trust these people, right? And in the Freemasons today, the first 3 degrees, and we talked about the 3rd degree last week, right? But the first 3 degrees in the Masonic order corresponds to the 3 grades of medieval craft guilds. So the first degree in the Masonic order today, you're an apprentice. The second is you're a journeyman, and the 3rd degree, you're a master mason.
Yeah.
And that's what it was in the old stonemason guilds in the 13th century.
And that's how actually last week's word origin
was
the 3rd degree.
Yeah.
And it was, I didn't realize it when I looked it up, and we found out it was the 3rd degree. Those are all the interviews and the process and what you have to get to.
And all the questions and the rituals you have to learn,
Is the 3rd degree of the Freemasons.
Yeah.
So a lot of things revert back to the Freemasons.
Yes, they do.
All right. Do you know how many people signed the U.S. Constitution?
I don't.
That were Freemasons.
Oh, that were Freemasons. I do know the answer to this. It was 13.
13 of the 39.
Yeah. 13 Freemasons signed the U.S. Constitution, including
George Washington
George
Washington and my favorite founding father, Benjamin Franklin.
Ben Franklin, the man with the big signature, John Hancock.
Yes.
And Ben Franklin. Monroe was a Freemason.
Yeah.
And Paul Revere.
Our 5th president, and Paul Revere.
Yeah. They all signed, so 13 out of 39.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and some of the other Freemasons this shows you how far back this actually goes. The one that stood out to me was Mozart.
Yeah, Mozart was a Freemason.
Yeah.
Winston Churchill was a Freemason.
Yeah.
Other presidents who were Freemasons?
FDR.
FDR for sure was a Freemason.
And a guy who I always wanted to be growing up, Davy Crockett.
Davy Crockett. And John Wayne.
Yes.
Who was revered in Ireland.
Yeah.
We love John Wayne. Yeah. He was a Mason.
Would you have loved him if he'd have stuck with Marion Morrison?
Probably not.
Yeah.
We would not have liked him. If he was still Marion Morrison,
it would not have been the same if he was Marion.
Could Tom Cruise succeed if he was Thomas Mapother? I don't think so.
I still don't think he succeeded. Least favorite actor right there. Who's your least favorite actor?
Least favorite actor.
Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise is on the top of my list.
Oh, I always hated Jim Carrey.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hated him.
Yeah.
Just never,
See,
never found him funny. Kind of annoyed me.
Yeah. See, and I was always okay with him because I was a big fan of In Living Color.
Okay.
And so I kind of accepted his craziness.
Yeah.
You know, he's the kind of guy like, I don't want to put him in the same category because Robin Williams is a different level.
Yeah.
But there's certain things Robin Williams would do because he didn't care about taking the risk.
Yeah.
And that's why I was okay with Jim Carrey.
Okay.
Because some of the stuff he just misses on. Just absolutely misses on, but he's okay taking the risk.
Yeah, fair enough.
So I'm okay. I'm okay with him. But I mean, Tom Cruise. I mean, we could use Scientology as one of our secret societies.
You know, we may have to.
Because who the hell understands that shit?
I was going to talk about the Orange Order, and then I decided again, like, I don't want to die.
Yeah,
tomorrow.
we might want to pass that. Might want to pass
So
that.
the Freemasons, right? So their symbol, right? If you look on it, the symbol is the builder square and the compass, right? And they believe in the grand architect of the universe. That's the supreme being, right?
Yes.
They've been condemned by the Catholic Church down through the ages. John Paul II, in 1985, went out of his way to restate over 200 of the strictures and the censors that they put on the Freemasons. In fact,
John Paul was our second longest pope.
I think he was, yeah.
Yeah, he was like 32 years or something like that. Yeah.
Do you know that America's first third party was the anti-Masonic
I saw
party?
that. I did see that. I read that.
1920 or 1828.
They were that big and that big of a threat.
That big of a threat. And so I also learned, did not know this at all. The Shriners who do a hell of a lot of great charity work, the Shriners are a subset of Freemasons. They're kind of like, they're not quite the charitable wing of it, but they sort of are.
Yeah.
And they're, of course, you know, benevolent society.
Well, I think it allows the Freemason to have an avenue to create their giving.
To create their giving. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's the way I read it or interpreted it. And if there's anybody out there in the comments that's, you don't have to say you're a Freemason, but can correct us, we'll check it out. We'll listen to that too.
Yeah.
Because we're going off of just where our research was at.
So you know so on the back of the dollar bill, on the back of the dollar bill, we have the dollar bill was redesigned in 1934, and FDR was a Freemason, and Henry Wallace was a Freemason as well. And supposedly, when they were redesigning the dollar bill in 1934, they chose the all-seeing eye, the Masonic symbol above the pyramid.
The Eye of Providence.
The Eye of Providence, yes. Now, obviously, this predates, the Egyptians used this as the Eye of Horus.
Yep.
And it appears in a lot of Renaissance art, but it's kind of an interesting little wrinkle there. And there's a lot of symbolism on the back of the dollar bill anyway.
I think the way the Freemasons used it was more in a Christianity type of situation, as God is always watchful.
Always watchful, yep.
You know, so I think that's, you know, and I'm making huge assumptions.
Yeah.
Because me and FDR didn't hang out a lot.
Not as much as I always thought, but then no.
Because he's in New York, I'm from Florida. We just didn't hang out a lot.
Yeah, you know.
But I mean, I believe that is where him and Wallace were trying to go with this. Because, I mean, a lot of people don't even understand when you say the Pledge of Allegiance.
Yeah.
Under God wasn't added until the 50s.
1953, yeah.
You know, because our founding fathers kind of kept that away from it.
Yeah.
A lot of them were Unitarians.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, well, you know, our country was built on... No, it actually was not in a lot of ways. That separation was much bigger. And I think we're doing a little bit better job about it than where we were in the 30s, 40s, and 50s.
Yeah, I think so.
Of keeping that separation. But, you know, our founding fathers... It was important to them to keep that separation.
Yeah, they knew what they were doing.
Yeah.
They sure did.
And most of them were Freemasons.
Yeah. And I think as well with that, you know, when you look at the back of that dollar bill, like the idea of the all-seeing eye, or God is always watching, like it's on top of a pyramid. Pyramids, it's four sides. You're looking north, south, east, and west, so God sees in every direction. Right? And I just like that. But I like if you look at the back of the dollar bill, it also has, the pyramid has 13 steps in it. You know, the eagle has 13 feathers, the olive branch is 13. You get all these cool things. But the thing I love on the bottom of the dollar
gallows have 13 steps.
They do.
Yeah, the gallows. If you hang someone from the gallows, it's 13 steps to the deck.
Oh. But also on the back of the dollar bill, they've got that Latin, the Novo Ordo Seclorum, which roughly translates to New Order of the World. And so lots of conspiracy theorists connect the Illuminati and the Freemasons to say, like, and another one we're probably going to talk about, Skull and Bones.
Yeah, that's the next one.
Yeah, and they all said that they're all trying to create this new order of the world. And look, man, they put it on the back of the dollar bill, but they did it in Latin because nobody speaks it.
Yeah.
Seriously.
You can find that. You can look that up.
Yeah.
You can look that up. So, all right.
Skull and Bones.
You touched on it a little bit. Skull and Bones. It's a secret society within the Yale University.
Yeah.
All right. And I really didn't know a whole lot about Skull and Bones. But when I found out who the origin or the co-founder was Alfonso Taft.
Yeah.
When he was at Yale.
Yeah.
Okay. When he was at Yale. And Alfonso Taft is the father of William Howard Taft.
Right.
One of our presidents, and who later became Supreme Court Justice.
Yep.
And he was the Secretary of War under Grant.
Yeah.
But he was he was the person who started it. And both H.W. Bush
and W. Bush
were in Skull and Bones.
Both
were in Skull and Bones.
And John Kerry was in Skull and Bones.
Yes.
John Kerry and W were in Skull and Bones at the same time.
Yeah.
And then ran against
each other in 2006, right? Or 2000. Yeah, it was 2006 or 2004.
2004.
2004.
So the other guy that founded it with Taft, William Huntington Russell, the whole the Skull and Bones now, their assets are managed by the Russell Trust Association, founded by Russell, and they own islands and they own buildings, and it's a very, very wealthy society. Yeah, and 15 seniors every year are tapped to be in this group.
Yeah, so every year they ask 15 of the top seniors to be in it.
Yeah, and
you know how many women they ask?
They only started asking women in 1992.
Okay, I thought it was 94, but yeah.
Well, there was a so this I read. So they voted in 92 to allow women in. Right? Yale only allowed women to attend Yale in 68. First time they allowed women in. But William F. Buckley, the famous conservative columnist, he protested against allowing women in. And delayed.
Was he in Skull and Bones?
He was in Skull and Bones.
Okay, I didn't know that. I didn't read that.
He was one of the famous alumni, and he delayed the induction of women. But John Kerry was one of the ones who fought to allow women in.
Okay, good for John.
Yeah.
Good for the catch-up man.
And John Kerry as well was also Secretary of State.
Yes.
Like, what a career he had.
Yeah. Senator, Secretary of State.
Ketchup.
Yeah. Thank goodness for Heinz.
And he was also, Kerry was also a pretty damn fine Vietnam vet too.
Yeah.
So
until he threw his medals away.
Yeah,
then it made everyone pissed everybody off.
But they publish the names every year, so there's no secret on who's in it. But then nobody knows what goes on in their meeting in the tombs, and you're supposed to meet twice a week. But one of the things I loved about it was it's the Skull and Bones, and then the number 322 underneath the Skull and Bones, and so. I was trying to figure out what that was, and apparently 322 BCE is when the Greek orator Demosthenes. No.
I thought it was Alexander the Great. I thought it was the year Alexander the Great died.
So I read that and I was like, that ain't right, because Alexander the Great died in 333.
Ah.
So I looked it up, and it's the Greek orator Demosthenes died.
Okay.
And it's also the end of what they call the Lamian War. And this is when Athens ended being a democracy and became a plutocracy. And the only way you could become an official citizen of Athens if you had 2,000 drachmas or more. And people believe, those who believe in the new order of the world connections conspiracy theory, that the Skull and Bones and the Illuminati are actually an offshoot. The Skull and Bones is really the Illuminati continued.
Yeah, and I don't want to get too far away from this. So is this where the term senator's son came from, because you had to have enough money to become a citizen, because if you became a citizen there was so many more rights with it.
Yep.
And a senator's son was considered the highest of wealth at that time.
Yeah, I bet it is.
So I'm assuming, and then that became a CCR song, for Vietnam and not having to go to war.
Yeah.
But the senator's son goes back to those days of being a citizen.
Yeah. So basically, it was like if you had enough money, you could be a citizen. Therefore, only wealthy people could be citizens. Only wealthy people could be powerful.
Yeah.
And supposedly, there is a conspiracy theory that says the Illuminati went underground and rose again as the Skull and Bones. Who knows?
But why
Good
is
story.
it only at Yale, though? I mean, the Illuminati's bigger than Skull and Bones.
Yeah. But you know what else I heard?
What's that?
So they supposedly have the skulls of Pancho Villa
Geronimo.
and Martin Van Buren.
Well, I heard they have Geronimo.
Yes, and Geronimo's family tried to get the skull back, and they denied that they ever had it.
Here's the irony of history and where we live.
Yeah,
Geronimo was supposed to come to St. Augustine.
that's right.
He was stopped just outside of Pensacola at a fort there, and he became a tourist
attraction.
So the tourists would take pictures with Geronimo. He later went to the reservation, but if he'd have came all the way to St. Augustine, would his skull still be here? Quantum leap moment.
Quantum leap moment. Yeah, it's just mad stuff about it. But there's loads of people. Like the founder of FedEx was in Skull and Bones. The founder of Morgan Stanley. The several Supreme Court justices.
I got a question for you.
CIA. Yeah.
Do you know where our governor went?
Our governor
Yeah.
last week.
No. Our governor, you know where he went to school?
He went to school at Yale Law School. Did he Yale Law School? Yeah. You think so?
I don't know.
Skull and Bones?
I don't know.
Ladies and gentlemen, we need to know, did Governor
It's
Ron
another-
DeSantis, is he a member of the Skull and Bones?
But, I mean, he went there. He was a baseball player there. Just saying. He's a pretty smart guy. Was he one of the 15 seniors that got asked?
Last I saw of him was at Arrowhead Stadium,
Yeah.
working the Kansas City crowd.
Yeah.
Not good, Ronnie. Not good.
Yeah. He'll be all right. He's doing okay. I appreciate him during COVID.
If he had charisma, he'd be dangerous.
he's doing all right. All right. Bilderberg. Did you look these guys up?
I did. I briefly did. This was one I never heard of before.
Okay. I didn't know them either. But now I'm disappointed I have not been asked to join them.
Do you know the invitation could be lost in the mail?
It might be.
Because I bet they use old school snail mail.
Oh, yeah.
Bet they do.
I rarely check the mail.
Yeah.
Blake, did you see it? I mean, you're the guy who checks the mail at the house. Did you see my invitation?
No, I didn't.
It's the Bilderberg Secret Society. No?
All right. So this started in the Netherlands. All right. At a hotel in 1954. So Prince Bernhard of the Netherlands.
Very fancy.
Yes. So he collected powerful politicians from North America and all over Europe. And, basically he was trying to foster better relations between the continents.
Okay.
All right. Because there's a lot of anti-American.
Supposedly.
Yeah. Anti-Americanism in Europe at the time. So I guess, Americans were probably flexing their muscles a little bit. Came out of World War II,
Yeah.
like we kind of kicked everyone's ass, and like we're the, we probably thought our shit didn't stink at that time, which
Which is true.
which is probably true at that
Yeah.
time. All right, but this society basically is like the Illuminati and the Freemasons, has high profile attendees. Bill Clinton,
Bill.
Margaret Thatcher, your
Yeah,
favorite,
Thatcher.
your favorite.
Sheep. The reason I'm not in that fucking club. Thatcher
right, 'cause you don't
blacklisted
want,
me.
You don't want yeah. She wouldn't let you in. That's
Wouldn't
why
let me in.
That's why you didn't get your invite.
That's right. Bitch.
Merkel, Angela Merkel.
I love Angela Merkel.
right.
She should have got me in.
All right, Tony Blair.
Tony Blair,
I kind
love
of like
Tony.
Blair. And Henry Kissinger, one of the smartest men around.
And he's pure evil too.
And no one can understand what the hell he says. He speaks 7 languages. None of them do anyone understand what he says. All right. But they ask, this is the part that gets me, why I'm upset, is they ask about 140 people to join, and 2/3 of them are from Europe, and the other is from pretty much the United States and North America. I have not been asked.
I'd love to know why the number is 140.
I don't know.
Like, who comes up with that number?
Well, it's 120 to 140.
120 to 140. Okay.
Yeah. So it's a gap. I guess it's a qualifying gap.
Qualifying gap. Okay.
So, but I want to know, like, what's going on in this thing. And the last two big topics are this year's big topics were Brexit and climate change.
Interesting.
So how secret are they if we know what the hell they're talking about?
That's the public
If we know
thing.
who's in,
That's the public thing.
if we know who's in and what the hell they're talking about, can't be that secret.
Can't be that secret. Well, speaking of non-secret societies and wonderful things, let's talk about our sponsors again.
Oh, yeah, let's talk about our sponsors, but I have one question for you.
Yes.
What's the closest to a secret society you've ever been in?
I don't think I'd know.
It's a secret, or is it a secret?
I don't think I'd know.
There's certain clubs that I'm a part of that have rituals
Yeah.
that stem from some of these things that I'm associated with. I'm not going to say because
Okay.
you're not really supposed to say these things.
I've never been a member of any club.
So, I mean, you're not a Rotarian, you're not an Elk, you're not
I'm
a
not the-
Kiwanis
I'm
or
not
any of those things. Okay.
Nothing.
So I have a couple of those on my resume.
Yeah.
So a lot of the rituals that I was reading about, and I go through and I go, okay. Didn't think about it at the time.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah.
So, all right, our sponsors. It's time to talk about St. Augustine Pirate Museum. Over 800 artifacts.
incredible.
So glad they're in town. I mean, they just do an amazing job over there. Cindy, appreciate how much
Yeah.
you do, and you're involved in the community. They run the Colonial Quarter. They run some restaurants there. They do an incredible job there. Just so happy they're here.
Yeah. Meehan's Irish Pub.
Yes.
Meehan's Irish Pub. I love Meehan's Irish Pub. I was there last Saturday. I'll probably be there again. Maybe not this weekend, but the one afterwards. Best pint of Guinness this side of the Atlantic. Great staff. They will look after you. Sitting at the bar on a Saturday night. Is there a finer place?
No.
No.
Just wonderful people. I'm a backyard kind of guy. I mean, if the weather's good, I hang out with Hubble. I hang out with Kelly back there in the back and Bryce. Those three just are running the show back there, doing an amazing job. All right, the Beacon Listening Room and Gypsy Cab, Frank and Kendra over there. So glad you guys
Killing
took it over. You guys are crushing it there. Go check them out. If you haven't been
lunch
there,
specials.
if you haven't been there in a while, stop in.
you need to.
Tell them that the Bollox crew sent you over there and said you got to try it. You will not be disappointed.
No, you won't. Abare, Kresge and Associates, the best tax attorneys. These best tax people walking around. These guys are incredible.
Yeah.
It's tax season. Everybody thinks they're smarter than the IRS. You're not smarter than the IRS. Abare, Kresge and Associates are.
They give you a chance.
They give you a chance.
They give you a chance. 900-degree pizza and pasta. I got to give a shout out to Chris, helping me out with my Jeep. He's also the owner of
Chris Cheshire.
Yeah, Cheshire.
Yeah.
Cheshire Customs helped me out with my Jeep this past couple weeks. Got it. I have a 1965 Jeep. It might be a part of the Illuminati. I don't know.
That probably is.
Yeah. But just helping me out with that. Appreciate you always supporting whatever we do here. And we're trying to make sure you guys are getting the support you need because that is great pizza.
Yeah, it is great pizza. And you're right, the Cheshires do great stuff. Their body shop is incredible. I had
Vibe Energy. I mean, they just do so
lots
much
of
good
things.
stuff. All right. City Gates Distillery and St. Augustine Distillery. Wonderful people. Just one of the best. Take the tour.
Take the tour.
At St. Augustine Distillery.
Take the tour at St. Augustine Distillery and then go upstairs to the ice bar and have dinner.
And have a drink and have some St. Augustine bourbon.
Yeah.
They have amazing vodka, gin. They have just the choice of whatever you want.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
They're a great asset to the town. Great sponsors, and thanks, guys, for supporting us.
All right, guess what time it is? It's time to talk about our
Aww,
moment.
the beaches.
Oh, you know what makes me feel good?
What makes you feel good?
A good walk on the beach.
You know, the moment I asked that, I got a little uncomfortable. I didn't know where you were going to go.
It's a good walk on the beach, and that's a fair question.
What's your favorite beach, Troy?
My favorite beach is actually a little south of town, and it is Butler Beach.
Butler Beach.
I have my e-bike.
Okay.
In a garage at one of my rental properties, but I keep the garage for myself. I'll jump on my e-bike and I'll ride down and it's around the Crescent Beach and Butler Beach area.
So Butler Beach is in between St. Augustine Beach and Crescent Beach.
Correct.
And what ramp takes you to Butler Beach?
Is it Mary Street?
It is the Mary Street ramp, yeah.
And was that his wife's name?
Yeah, all the little streets there are named after the women in his family.
Randolph with his son.
There's a Ginny or Gloria.
Gloria was one of them. You know, and if you're not familiar with the history of Butler Beach, I'm going to let you take it from here.
Okay, so Frank Butler, he was an African-American businessman and leader in St. Augustine. At the time when Frank Butler, he started buying up property on Anastasia Island.
Well, he had a market.
We had a market down in Washington Street.
And if you Google, it was called the Palace Market.
Palace Market,
and it's pretty close to where the St. Francis House is now on Washington Street.
Yeah.
There used to be a juke joint, and it was a market, and there was a lot of different things. But he had a market, and this guy, he was a great business guy.
Oh, he founded the College Park Realty, which sold and rented to African Americans. And then he realized that all the beaches were whites only beaches. So he started purchasing land in Anastasia Island starting in 1927. And he eventually owned a huge swath of land going from the beach over to the intercoastal. And then after World War II, he developed this as a resort for African Americans.
Yeah.
And it was the only one between Daytona Beach and, what'd you say, American Beach?
American Beach, which was north, and we're going to talk about that, which is north of Jacksonville, between Jacksonville and Fernandina.
And you had access to the intercoastal. He had a Butler's Beach Inn, which provided accommodation.
Yep.
They had a pavilion, they had a concession stand. They had a Seabreeze Casino. They had dances. They had a merry-go-round. And, you know, in the 1960s, Martin Luther King stayed at Frank Butler's Inn. And that's when they had the Wade Inn. They tried to desegregate St. Augustine Beach.
So there is still on Atlantic, what is it? I can't think of it. It's Atlantic. There's a house there that we're trying to raise money for to move that house. And it was one of the houses that got shot up.
Yeah.
Because they thought Martin Luther King was staying there.
Yeah.
And it was one of Frank Butler's houses.
Yeah.
And I think it's on Gloria. It's on Atlantic.
Yeah,
Circle
I think it is on Gloria. It's one of those.
Yeah. But it's right there. But a lot of local people right now are trying to raise money to move this house to a better location. And I don't know if they're planning on moving it to Butler, where Butler Boat Ramp is, or where they're going to move it. But I think they need to raise about $180,000 to save this part of history.
Yeah, and he's an incredible guy, Frank Butler. You know, you can deep dive into the history of Frank Butler, all he did in Lincolnville, all he did throughout. He even had housing developments built just for, you know, African Americans. He was an extraordinary man. And, you know, you could be arrested. If you were black and you walked on St. Augustine Beach, you could be arrested.
Well, the movie that I put together, along with Chad and Laura, and you know, it's called Freedom on Our Mind.
Yeah.
And we talked about the wade-ins of 1964. It was not legal at the pier to be a black person to go into the water at the pier of St. Augustine Pier.
Yeah.
So the wade-ins took place in June of 1964, and there was some pretty violent situations.
Yeah.
And there's footage within my movie of just, like I said, there's certain things in our life that we look back and go, how the hell do we think like that?
Yeah. And 1964 is not that like it's
3 years before I was born.
Yeah, it's not even. It's 59 years ago.
Yeah.
And you had gangs of white people preventing black people from swimming. Yes. Yeah.
So
Incredible.
I mean, and they had to have the state highway patrolmen circle the young black protesters, and they would hold their ground. They created a barrier
so
around,
they could get into the ocean,
so that they could just walk into the ocean.
Yeah.
And the footage of it is incredible.
Yeah.
So, you know, hopefully I can get the movie sold and everyone gets to see the amazing footage of that.
Yeah.
But Frank Butler, Frank B. Butler, he started in Lincolnville with working as a butcher. He did a couple
That's
different
right.
things, and then he created his own market, the Palace Market. And if you go on eBay, what he would do for credit is he would give you like a token, and that would be your credit, and then you could pay. And so he would let people in Lincolnville buy on credit
Yeah.
groceries. So
Hell of a guy, wasn't
I thought he was the first black millionaire in the state of Florida, but he wasn't. When I did my research, the person who was the first millionaire, black millionaire in the state of Florida, and I've said that story, and I actually had today I had an aha moment, like, oh, I've been saying that wrong.
Wow.
Was Abraham Lincoln Lewis was the
Abraham Lincoln
first.
Lewis.
He was the first black millionaire in the state of Florida, and he's the man. From Frank Butler, it took me to this. This is the tangent I went down. American Beach.
That's American Beach.
That's American Beach. It was started by Abraham Lincoln Lewis, and
Wow.
he was the first black millionaire in the state of Florida.
And where is American Beach?
American Beach was north of Jacksonville. It was between Jacksonville and Fernandina Beach. And it was, it's very similar. Frank Butler actually kind of modeled some of the stuff after American Beach. And that's where it kind of stemmed from that.
So just to put it in perspective, if you were at American Beach, north of Jack's Beach, a little south of Fernandina, from there to Daytona,
It was over.
it was whites only.
Yeah, it was
And
whites only.
And Frank Butler Beach,
Yeah.
to make sure that,
and Frank Butler, the way he did it, he bought it in pieces by pieces.
yeah, so people didn't pay
So
attention.
people didn't really understand, and he bought it as his real estate company, not necessarily his name.
Yeah.
Similar to what Disney did in Orlando. They did Reedy Creek
Reedy Creek, yeah.
is how they bought a lot of the Disney property because Walt didn't want his name attached to it.
So American Beach, so why call it American Beach? Do you know why?
Well, his name was Abraham Lincoln,
Oh, fair enough.
Abraham Lincoln Lewis.
Yeah.
So he was very passionate about, being an American and succeeding even against your, the obstacles put in front of you.
Yeah.
So he didn't see things as obstacles. He saw them as, okay, I can overcome that.
Yeah.
So another person that's very, very ahead of his times, and we're talking about guys that did these things well before Martin Luther King.
Oh, yeah. Well before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Doing the right thing when everyone else thought you were wrong.
Yeah.
And that makes you a special type of person.
And you could get dead for doing it.
Oh yes, yeah. Well, I mean the beauty about these guys is they understood the value of dollar, and
Yeah.
if you didn't want to work for the man, you became the man. And both of these guys understood that money talks,
Well,
and money creates power,
money creates power. It does,
and,
yeah.
and it creates respect.
Yeah.
And both of these guys took that approach. They had to eat a lot of shit sandwiches to get there,
Yeah.
and they knew they did. So they created it to make an easier path for the people they wanted to help.
That's tremendous.
Yeah.
Tremendous. Okay, so here's one.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, I live on Anastasia Island.
Yes.
And Anastasia State Park, right? Anastasia State Park. Why is it called Anastasia?
I do not know.
So it's named for the martyr Saint Anastasia.
Okay.
It was originally, and there's a map from 1737, and there's a Spanish engineer who's Arredondo, and there's Arredondo Avenue in
Yes,
Davis Shores,
yes.
named after him, and he labeled the whole island Santa Anastasia. And some people have said, it's connection to Henry Flagler, or some people have said it's named after Anastasia of the Russian Tsars. Nope. Saint Anastasia, she's the patron saint of martyrs. Her feast day is Christmas Day. She was martyred in AD 304, something like that. But there's a map, and there's a copy of it at the St. Augustine Historical Society, 1737. And the island was named after Saint Anastasia.
All right. But since 1737, Anastasia Island's changed a lot.
It has.
All right. Not just because of what the Davis group did for Davis Shores and stuff like that, but I don't think a lot of people in St. Augustine understand where the inlet is today. All right?
yeah, that wasn't.
That did not exist. Where the inlet is today that separates Volano from the Anastasia State Park,
Yeah.
where that huge gap in land was, that did not exist until the early 1940s, late 1930s when they started digging it to the early 1940s.
Yeah.
The other thing that they don't understand is the reason the lighthouse is where it is Salt Run. All right. The original inlet is basically about right in the middle of Anastasia State Park.
Yep.
All right. But the Army Corps of Engineers thought they were going to have two accesses and inlets.
Yeah.
But where Anastasia State Park is filled in naturally.
Yep.
So that's why the lighthouse is in such a weird place.
And people are like, why is it there? Well,
the lighthouse was there before they built the inlet that's now exists.
Well, and of course, we just won a great fight to preserve Fish Island.
Yes.
And of course, not a lot of people understand that Fish Island was a land grant from the Spanish government of 10,000 acres to Jesse Fish.
Yeah.
In I don't know, 1790 or 1795, something like that.
Yeah. It was in the second Spanish.
Yeah.
So it was it was after the Revolutionary War, but it was in the second Spanish period.
And they gave him all of the land except the quarries.
Yeah.
Except
they
the quarries.
They didn't give him the coquina.
No, didn't give him. And he had a huge orchard here, the huge orange groves, and and even when Florida changed hands, when Florida became part of the U.S., Jesse's wife was still alive, and it was officially recognized for a while. But that's why Fish Island is called Fish Island.
Yeah.
Named after Jesse Fish.
All right, we only have about 3 minutes. I know we want to talk about Volano. We want to talk about Crescent. Crescent's an easy one.
Go do Crescent.
All right, so Crescent Beach is called Crescent Beach if you've ever been in a helicopter or if you've ever seen an aerial of it.
Or levitated.
Or levitated naturally because you're a part of the Illuminati.
Yeah.
But if you've ever been at a certain height and you look at the shape of the island there, and that portion of the beach, it looks like a crescent moon.
Yep. It's just a big, natural-looking, huge C.
Yep.
A letter C. Yep. That's what it is.
And that's where it comes from.
Yeah. Natural
That's
shape
the
of the
simplest. That's the simplest one we looked up.
Crescent
All right,
Beach.
You got Volano.
Volano. Oh, so Volano is Villano means villain or ill-mannered in Spanish, and it was originally called North Beach, and it was called North Beach for a long time.
And some people still call it North Beach.
Some people do.
Because North Beach Utilities is owned by the Usina family.
Yeah.
And,
And there used to be a railroad that crossed, and the trains used to be boarded at Davenport Park, which is where the carousel used to be. But Frank and Mary Usina.
Yeah.
The bridge, the Volano Bridge, is named after them.
Yes.
Aunt Kate's is named after Frank's wife, Aunt Kate's Restaurant. They used to do oyster roast for Flagler's guests. They had the original Victory, the tourist boat.
Well, they had the huge casino over there.
They had the casino over there.
The swimming pool. The swimming pool was 150 feet by 50 feet.
Yeah, and it was salt water.
Yes.
Saltwater swimming pool. Yeah, and it was destroyed there was storms and tides, 37, 38.
Yeah.
And I've heard stories that parts of the old casino are in people's houses and yards over there. And several of the Usina families still have the doors and pillars.
Well, I can tell you this. One of the rumors, I don't know if you remember this, but one of the rumors of the restaurant that was at Volano, it was called,
was it
Fiddler's Green.
Yeah.
So Fiddler's Green, in the bar, that wood was retrofitted from the old casino.
Okay, if anyone knows the truth to that, I would love to get that story.
Then they got knocked down and destroyed.
Yeah, I love Fiddler's Green.
So
Volano, it kicked in the 1920s. Up until the 1920s, nobody called it Volano. And I couldn't find out why or at what time. But by 1924, 25, people were calling it Volano and it appears on maps.
Yeah.
But before then, nobody did.
Well, I thought it came into play in the 1920s because of the casino and because of the teetotalers. And
because they were villains, they were ill-mannered. It was prohibition. I like that.
But that's the story that I kind of surmised is
Yeah.
how it got it. But that's a story we need to get more
Yeah, it
into.
is.
Because guess what? We're at the end of our show.
We're at the end of the show.
We're at the end of the show. So we need to figure that one out
Yeah, we do.
before we come back. And if you guys would, I want to say thank you again for watching. If you would, hit that share button.
Tell
So,
everybody.
I mean, how much stuff did we go through today? Wow. But I mean, hopefully you laughed and learned and you picked up something off of this show. If you did, please hit that share button. If you didn't, please don't be mean.
Visit all of our sponsors. Get your butts downtown. Go to these local places. They are the reason they make this town great.
Yep. All right. This is Bollox Talks and Tangents. We'll be back next week.
See you next week.
Bye-bye.